तो आज हम लोग पाइथन के डेटा टाइप्स को मास्टर करेंगे और समझेंगे कि पाइथन में डेटा टाइप्स क्या होते हैं. So data types in any language, right? If you are new to programming and you are picking Python as your first language to learn, it's very important to understand what data types are and what variables are, because everything revolves around this only. So in Python or in any language, we have this concept of data types. So data types are nothing but the type of data that your variable is storing. And what are variables? So in any programming language, variables are something which holds values, and you can change those values as per your logic, as per your code runs basically. So in variables, so in Python we can define variables like you might have seen like this, like a equal to some value, let's say hello, right? So this a is nothing but a variable and hello is the value assigned to it. Now this equal sign, like in general mathematics you would know that equals is for equality, but in programming it's a different meaning to that. So equal is for assignment, right? So in equal, so these equal signs means that we are assigning this hello value to this variable a, right? And can you guess what's the type of this variable? So this is a string type. So in Python or in any programming language, we assign values to the variables, and these values need to be of a specific data type. So depending on the programming language, so currently if you can see, there is nothing in here that is specifying ki this is a string value basically. But programming language, you need to actually define what the value that you are assigning to the variable. Like let's say if I take an example of a C program, I mean if people are familiar, you define it as int a equals to 5. So this variable a has a type of data type int. So you have to specify during the like the code itself, in the code itself, that what kind of values I am trying to put in this particular variable. So if you try to put any different value, let's say further in the code that a is equal to, let's say a character like r, right? Then this will be an error and the program would throw, right? So data types are very important, but fortunately in the case of Python, data types, the variables are dynamically typed. So what do we mean by dynamically typed? That the type of the variable can change during the program execution. What that effectively means is that if I say a is equal to 4 and a equals to let's say Ram, then this is perfectly fine, right? Why? Because the variables in Python are dynamically typed. So what does that mean is, so typed basically means that, so when you basically compile this code, it will try to understand what is the data type of this variable, and it will only allow that values of that particular type. लेकिन Python के केस में क्या है, it is dynamically typed. It means during the program execution itself, it can basically change the type of values that it can hold. So अगर मैं a को 4 असाइन कर रहा हूँ और उसके बाद में a को राम असाइन कर रहा हूँ, तो पहले a में कौन सा टाइप का वैल्यू था? It was of type integer, and then मैंने चेंज करके उसको a equals to राम कर दिया, and then the value changed to string. So the type of this variable is changing dynamically. So there are two types of languages basically. There is statically typed languages, like we have C, C++, right, Java. So these are the older popular languages which are statically typed. So what happens here is that whenever you define a variable, you also need to define the type of that variable. right? So if you can't just say a equals 4, you have to say like int a equals 4, because then a will store the int specific values. And same for C++ and same for Java. The syntax may be different, but the idea is same. So statically typed languages, you have to explicitly mention the type of the variable. But in the case of dynamic typed languages like Python or Julia or any modern dynamically typed language, you don't need to specify the type of the variable. So you can assign values of multiple types during the program execution, right? Okay, so what are the core data types that are present in Python? So I have a chart here, I have a diagram where you can see that this is the core classification of all the data types that are there. So we have this numeric data type, which actually is again categorized into three types. Integer, the integer is for storing integer data types. Float is for storing decimal pointers. And complex number, and I mean, if you are aware of complex numbers, it is basically so these are, you can see that it's storing real numbers, and complex or let's say imaginary numbers also you can store. I mean, if you are aware, but you can read about it. Then we have a dictionary data type, and this is usually used for storing key value pairs. So key value in the sense that you can think of like a phone book, right? That you have a name and you have a number assigned to it. Let's say Ram has this number, then Shyam has some other number, then Mohit has some other number. So this is kind of a dictionary style data type. Then you have a Boolean data type, and this is for storing true false values. So either something is true or false, right? Then we have this set data type. So in set, same as like mathematics, it is used for storing a set of values. The key distinction is that in a set the values must not be duplicate, right? Like you can't have a sequence like, let's say 1 comma 1 comma 3. So this is, so if you try to store 1 comma 1 comma 3 inside the state, it will directly change to only 1 and 3. So it will get rid of this duplicates. Then we have this sequence type of data, in that we have string, tuple and list. So string is basically like string of values like hello or any long sentence, like it is a sequence of characters basically. Then we have a tuple. Tuple is kind of like an ordered set, so it looks like this. Let's say I have a tuple of, so this is my tuple, right? So it's just a sequence of value, an ordered sequence of values. And if I have a different tuple, let's say 1 comma 3 comma 2, right? So this A and B are two different sets of tuples, and even if they store like similar values, we actually look at the sequence in what they are ordered in. So this A and B are different actually, even if they hold the same values, because the sequence has changed. So tuples are mostly useful in some programming context, like if you want to return multiple values from a function. We will cover functions in a later video, but that's the core idea. So if a function is returning, let's say 3 values, and you want to capture all 3 of them, then we can use tuples. Then we have this list data type. So list is nothing but a sequence of values. Let's say I have a sequence of the first 5 natural numbers, right? So this is a list basically. Then in a list there are multiple functions that you can use. So you can change this list, you can update any particular value in this list. You can access any particular value in this list. Let's say I want to have I want to print the value at position 1. One thing to note is that lists are 0 indexed, right? So 0 indexed means that I'm going to, so the starting indexes starts from 0, so it is 0 1 2 3 4. So if I say a of 1, so it is 0 1, so it will print as, so this will print 2. Okay, yep. So that is list. Okay, one more thing. In list we can actually have values which are of different data types. So I can have values like 1 comma 1.2 comma ram comma let's say I have an object here, an empty object here, right? So in this I have 4 values in my A, and all of these are of different data types. Now in many programming languages this is not allowed. Like let's say C++, for example, if I have a list, so in C++ it's called a vector. So in that you have to specify a particular data type that you are going to have in that list. But in Python, since Python is dynamically typed, we don't actually need to specify that which value it is holding. So we can add like all kinds of values, like an integer type, a floating data type, a string data type, a dictionary data type, everything is allowed. So it will, this is okay. So now you know how to access this list basically. I'll cover lists more deeply in further videos. So there are multiple operations that you can do. You can add to this list, like you can append to at the end, at the start, you can split this list. There are all kinds of functionalities that we can do. Okay. Yep, I guess we have covered all kinds of data types. So just to recap, so what are data types basically? So data types are nothing but the type of data that a variable is storing. And what are variables? Variables are containers in your code that are going to store these values. Now in the case for Python, since Python is dynamically typed, that is, we don't need to know the type of value before assigning it to a variable. We can directly assign any data type to any variable. I mean, there are some restrictions which I would discuss later, but mostly in Python you can basically assign any value and that would be perfectly fine. Now I'll just show you an example quickly. So complex number you will see something like yeah, complex, right? So this is the real part of it and this is the complex part of it. So we so there is a j suffix at the end of it, so this is the 2 is the complex part of it. And if I say complex 1, complex, let's say 2, and if I try to add these two, so this is a print statement. Let's say I'll just remove all this, right? and if I try to run, so I hope you have Python installed in your system. I'm not going to make a video on it because I guess there are enough tutorials available on the internet and YouTube per se, so you can go check those out. So this is how you execute any function. So this is your binary and this is the file that you are providing to it. So it will basically execute it, and yeah, so you can see that it printed out 3 plus 5j. So the real part gets added to the real part, and the complex with the complex part, right? So that's how complex addition works. Similarly, similarly subtraction and other operations will also work. So let's say if I try to multiply these two, right? Say what happens then. Yeah, so this is like a dot product of these complex values, but yeah, you get the idea. Also, let's say if you want to check what's the data type of a particular variable, I mean it's dynamically typed, but let's say at a particular moment what's the data type of a particular variable. So you can check using this type function. So let's check out how it is used. So I have, let's say I have variable 1 has some value, let's say hello, and we will print the type of this variable. So we'll just do var.type, right? And if we execute it, okay, there is some error. Oh, it's like this. Right, so this is saying that it's the class is of string type. So we will also cover classes in a later video, so it is more of an advanced concept. So I mean it's not advanced, it will just come at a later stage. So this is of string. If we change the value to, let's say 1 2 3 and do the same thing here, you will see that how this type changes. Like as we go deep into this, as we go down this code, that first it was, so you can just see the dynamic typing in action actually. So the first is string, then is int, then again if I change it to, let's say an empty object, and then do the same, see this data type changed to a dictionary. So this is the same variable and it is showing like 3 different types. So each time we are assigning some new value. So this is dynamic typing in action.